Hello friends and welcome. I'm Sarah Liz and I am back with another emergency card kit. If you're new to my channel, an emergency card is one where we make the cards ahead of time, but we leave the sentiments off. That way, when an occasion arises, we can choose the card that best fits the recipient and the sentiment that best fits the occasion. To help you with this, I release free printable sentiment kits on the first and third Friday of every month. You may have noticed it is not a Friday. In September, I am releasing 5 free kits, 5 of them, and this is number 2, and I cannot wait to share it with you. Let's take a look at the kit. These are Halloween sentiments, but there's a heavy leaning towards birthday. I love all the Halloween supplies, but I struggle sometimes to know, like, what is that card for? So I'm really trying to give us ways to use all the cute seasonal supplies that also have a purpose and a reason we might give that card. The number 1 cause of death is too many birthdays. Don't go dying on me. Let's get smashed nice and gored for your birthday, which please. Death creeps ever closer. Happy birthday, you old bat. Eek, you're killing it. Let's be frank. When I realized how old you are, I died dead. Wishing you a wicked birthday. I'm here for the booze, but happy birthday too. Wishing you many books for your birthday. Let's get spooky. At your age, it's not like it's hard. So these circle sentiments are 1 3/4 of an inch, and that circle is just a little bit larger. It helps me to get things centered when I sort of wiggle my punch. When I can't see that line, I know everything is centered. There's a second page that has the exact same sentiments and the same sizes, but without the circle in case you want to use a different size circle or a different shape altogether. Then we have rectangle sentiments. You can connect these on the tick marks and you will end up with a whole bunch of perfectly cut 2 1/4 by 1 1/4 inch rectangles. And I love these. There is a little bit more room in this layout. So sometimes I was able to separate things. Let's get spooky. Let's face it, at your age, it's not like it's hard. So you can get that sort of inside outside punchline sentiment. Then we have our strip sentiments. These are about 1/4 inch wide. You just connect the tick marks on the blade of your trimmer and you'll know that they're straight. So I have 2 fonts here that are pretty standard. We've been using those for a while. Then we have the same sentiments in 2 more fonts, something scripty and a nice classic serif font. And then because it's Halloween, we have 2 additional fonts that are a little more Halloween-y. I used these a lot in the circles and rectangles, so I wanted to bring those in just to help us with sort of the tone and theme of our cards. And it's Halloween, friends. We had to do it with white text on a black background. So it's the same 6 fonts, but we've changed the layout. So it's white on black. All right, my friends, this is a first. We also have digital paper. I am loving the really cute pink Halloween. And I was going to do some ink blending on my cards, but I thought, you know what? Not everybody loves ink blending. What if we just made a background and then we could put that in the background of our card and focus on the other elements? So I have this one that is some pink and a little bit of orange blending into black. And then we have another one with this soft pink kind of into white and then purple. This has almost like a cloud sort of pattern in it, and I love that too. These are in that free download, okay? So it's just part of your PDF. Friends, I hope you're inspired by today's video, and if you're interested in the free download with the sentiments and printable paper, all I ask is that you subscribe to my channel and be sure to ring the bell so you'll be notified every time there's a new free kit. All right, let's make some cards. So this first one is one of the Dancin die sets that came out with Spellbinders last Halloween. And I hadn't used him yet. He's the cutest little death you ever did see. And I just love him. So we're gonna start by doing a little bit of ink blending. You absolutely could skip this. I just knew that the rest of the card was gonna come together very quickly. So I thought I would share how I sometimes step up a card that might otherwise feel pretty simple. I'm adding just the lightest touch of ink on a lot of these. I have to remind myself every time that when I'm ink blending on dark cardstock like this purple, it looks a lot darker than it will in the end because it's wet. And so I also have my black soot distress ink out, and I'm going to add a little bit of black on there because by the time the purple dries back, that ink isn't much darker than the actual cardstock. I know that I would be disappointed if I just used the purple. So a little bit of black on there too. And then we'll start assembling the Dancin Grimm. Did you guys get this last year when it came out? I've been working with Spellbinders as an influencer. Sometimes they send me free product for like a year and a half, 2 years now. They offered to send me this and I was like, I don't know. It's the Grim Reaper, right? And then I saw everybody make cards with it and I was like, I missed the boat here. This thing is so cute. We are going to make him dance. So the swinging element is his entire body and his scythe. So I'm starting by stacking up the purple pieces. I cut 3 of them. It's 100-pound cardstock, very heavy weight. And that way it's a little bit heavier. They swing better when they're heavier. This is the inside of his sleeve. And I tell you what, I had no idea what that piece was when I was cutting everything. I think it's attached to the die with the metal piece for the scythe. So just a heads up on that. I've cut it from like 3 colors before I figured out what to do with it. And then I'm also stacking up the wooden part of the scythe because it swings too. And it's just this skinny little piece of paper, of cardstock, right? And I don't want it to get damaged while it's moving around. There are 2 hands and they kind of have thumbs, sort of. And I'm actually going to assemble this differently than how they have it on the package. I think you could go either way. It just kind of depends on like how he's holding it. And the one on the right hand side, his left hand, is really just tucked way behind there. I just have a peak of white that is his hand. When I go to attach this, I'm adding glue onto the sleeve, right? That sort of inner black piece. And then I'm going to have it overlap or underlap, I guess, his robe a little bit. So I can add a little bit more glue down at the bottom so that piece is a little bit sturdier. I'll just tuck the tip of my glue bottle in there. A lot of this is exactly what's on the packaging. It's a purple Grim Reaper, right? This is how they have that side to make sure that it's nice and sturdy. Next, I'm bringing in the A2 tree frame from Trinity Stamps. There's also an A7 version, and we're going to lay this over the top of our digital paper. The rectangles for the paper are about 5 inches by 6 inches. And I've given it to you 2 ways. So you could do a vertical card or a horizontal card and you would still have the paper that you need. I'm honestly going to use almost every bit of this paper between the 2 cards. And I just printed 1 of each sheet. I want to trim this down so it is a little smaller than the frame. When I'm working on Halloween cards or cards that have a lot of dark cardstock in them, sometimes around Christmas, I'm using a lot of plum cardstock. I don't want the white of that printed paper peeking out from behind there. So if I make it just a little bit smaller, it's easier to hide. If I end up with paper that is showing, that's kind of hanging out, I just run my black alcohol marker. I use Ohuhu alcohol markers along the side to cover that up. We'll do that with some of the sentiments later and you'll see that. So I have just glued that right on top of my printed sheet. I didn't have to ink blend. I saved a whole bunch of time. You guys, I'm so happy with this paper. I hope you like it. I will link my printer because somebody is going to ask. I will say my printer is excessive, right? I have it for other reasons, but I love it so much. So I will link it below just so you can see what I use. I print on 80-pound Hammermill Cardstock, the same stuff that everybody raves about and has the chameleon on the package. So I am trimming apart my strip sentiments. I just line up those tick marks on the blade of my trimmer and I know I'm going to get perfectly straight sentiments. And then I can just trim off either end to create equal margins. And then I run my marker right along the edge of that so it looks like it's black cardstock and not just white paper with black printing. It's about 1/4 inch and this silver piece is 3/8 of an inch. I line it up on there so that the top, bottom, and left-hand sides have the same margins, and then I trim off the right-hand side until it matches. We're going to use a rectangle sentiment for the inside. So when I trim, I want to go only up to the header, but leave that header intact. Then I will trim up all of those vertical lines and rotate. There are tick marks on the side. That's why we kept everything attached, so we would still have those tick marks. And if I just line those up and run my blade through it, I have my perfectly cut rectangular sentiments. I'm going to kind of skim through this till we get all the way up at the top. I don't normally cut all mine apart. I find it easier to look through them when they're still attached. So I would love to know how you store your emergency sentiments, because right now they're like in little plastic baggies and I need a better way. I am working on the dancing element and I have his body on top of the head. Everything's upside down and I'm tracing around that circle, and then I'm figuring out how far I want it to swing, and I'm just drawing little pencil lines because I don't want to put foam where it's going to keep it from swinging. I'm going to stack it up too thick. I think these are old Stampin' Up! Foam pieces. I have a ton from when I used to make a ton of Stampin' Up! Cards. I hadn't used them with the Dancin dies before. They're perfect. It is absolutely perfect here. I used black Stampin' Up! Foam for the back of his head, and I just have 3 of them, and I made sure that they weren't going to get in the way of his body swinging. It's important to note that there was no foam or glue or adhesive on the body because it's moving. It's just a little bit of foam through the hole that's at the top of the body die cut. I'm stacking up some extra black cardstock to put behind my sentiment, just because there's a lot of dimension in our grim and I didn't want it to feel off balance. I'm going to add this with removable adhesive. That way, if I want a different sentiment for this, I can easily swap that out. But I do want one on the inside of the card. It's the #1 cause of death, right? So that sentence is incomplete. You could have both the outside and inside punchline both be strip sentiments or both be rectangles or circles, right? But in this instance, I just wanted something a little bigger on the inside. I love that I get to play with fonts and do some fun things in the larger sentiment format. So that's what I'm doing. I've attached a piece of white cardstock that is 4 by 5 1/4 to the inside with removable adhesive, and then I will add the sentiment with removable adhesive as well. And that finishes up our card, my friends. I'm so glad I finally got to play with this guy. It's like a little spooky with the purples, but he's so cute. The #1 cause of death is too many birthdays. Card number 2 is also interactive. We're going to use an action wobbler and a fun fold. It pops out on the bottom, and then when you flip this up, there is room for a gift card in there. That pumpkin on the front gives us a place to tuck that front panel to make sure that it stays standing upright on display. I promise this one is super easy, and there is a printable for the fun fold. It's from a previous kit, so I'll show that to you and I'll link it below. This is the Halloween ghost dog from Spellbinders, and if I'm honest, I thought this was a Dancin die, but it's not. It's just the cutest little dog, and I've cut some of the pieces from craft cardstock. That wasn't dark enough for me, and so I actually kind of like taking craft and going over it with a little bit of slightly splotchy brown ink just to get some more variation in color when I'm working on a critter. Then, because I had my inks out anyway, I've got a little bit of orange on the bottom of the pumpkin pail, a little bit of pink at the bottom of the inside of the ears, and then the ghost is getting just the lightest touch of gray, just to give it a little bit of dimension. This is a small die set, and it comes together very quickly. I struggled with the ears because I forgot that there's like an indentation in the brown piece, and you need a little more glue. Otherwise, when you set it on there with just your wax tool, it's not actually touching the glue, so it comes right back off. So easy enough to fix. Totally forgot for a minute. Question for you guys. I'm using a gray work mat right now. We're using a lot of black cardstock. I thought the greater contrast would be better, make it easier to kind of see what we're doing. I would love your feedback. Do you like the gray background better than the black background we usually use? I am kind of torn. I like them both for different reasons. So leave me a comment if you have opinions on that. I am very curious. So I am just assembling my dog. The face goes behind the sheet and then the snout goes in front, but I glued it down too quickly. I'm having a little moment, right? I'm like, oh no, he's supposed to hold this pail in his mouth, right? I suppose you could put it at his feet too, but that's not as cute. That's not as fun. So I'm going to glue that together really quickly, and it wouldn't be an emergency card video if we didn't have to take something apart. I'm just sticking the pokey end of my pickup stick underneath there. I use one from Trinity Stamps. People keep asking me about it. It's the best. I love this thing. It's absolutely amazing. So I'll just loosen that up so I can tuck the handle of the pail right underneath there. And then the feet just tuck right underneath the bottom of his sheet. Okay. So there's our little dog completed. I'm going to set him aside, and we're going to work on this fun fold. This is kit 31 from April of this year, and it has all the measurements you need. This piece is 11 by 4¼ and I'm going to score at 2¼ and 5½ inches. So it's a standard card base, and we're scoring it in half, and then we're scoring in the middle of one section. And it's going to tell you the first fold is a mountain fold and the second one is a valley fold. So it's a Z fold, right? That's it. That's the base of our card. I'll kind of move my scoreboard so you can see that better. Then we have a second piece that is 11 inches by 3¼ inches, okay? And there are score lines on here as well. I'm going to score this at 2 inches, and then it says 6½ inches, but I have a short scoreboard. I know a lot of us do. It's just easier to store. So if you just rotate, that's going to be at 4½ inches from the other end. Also on this printable sheet are the sizes for the pieces of pattern paper or white cardstock that you might use to add to your card. I highly recommend that you just score and fold the card base first, and then start picking out your pattern paper and figuring out, do you even want to cover all of those pieces? So this piece is 4 by 5¼ and that's our black and pink digital paper that I printed out, and I'm going to stick that on the back. I tell you what, it killed me a little bit. We're covering up most of it. I suppose I could have used a die to cut out the middle, but I did not. I cut this second piece from the horizontal digital paper so it lines up with the piece that's in the background. I really like that seamless look that we get. I'm going to leave that inside piece empty. I can always add something later, but I don't think it really needs it. On the inside of the card, I'm using this spooky paper pack from scrapbook.com. If you watched Monday's video, there's that pumpkin paper that I love so much. It's got some really great, more subtle, is Halloween ever subtle? There's like eyeballs or spiders or spider webs, things that really fit as just a complement to whatever other pattern you're using. I felt like we had so much color, we didn't necessarily need to print another digital paper for that. Both of these pieces are 3 inches wide by 4¼ inches tall. The white one is for our greeting, and that top one, that's where we're gonna stick our gift card. So I'm kind of showing you, mine's a hotel key, but you know, whatever. You have some room on the sides, but make sure your glue is all the way on the sides. I do like wet glue for this. I hate it when the gift card gets wiggled around in there, and then if you have like double-sided tape, it gets stuck to the tape. This piece, when folded, is going to go right in the center of the large piece of pattern paper. So I am putting glue on the back of the section with the white cardstock, okay? And I am centering that on the back panel. There we go. And it's going to fold up so that the Z on the bottom tucks inside of it. I'm going to put a little more pattern paper on the front, same size again, 3 inches wide by 4¼ inches tall. There are measurements for other smaller sections that we didn't cover in paper in case you want them. This bin has my leftover die cuts from the September clubs. We're just going to steal the bats from the small die of the month. And then I have this faux embroidered pumpkins set. I think it came out over the summer. I just had pieces tucked in the back that were already assembled, and so we're going to grab those. I want the bats just kind of framing my sentiment. The pattern paper was so quick and easy to use. My little dog came together so quickly, and I thought, you know what? Just a couple extra die cuts would really step this up. So I'm just adding my bats to frame the sentiment, but my regular rectangles were a little too big. So I printed this one. This is pages 2 and 3 from our printable, but I told my printer to print 2 per sheet. Okay, so 2 pages per sheet, only pages 2 and 3, and that's how I get these smaller sentiments. I'm sure you've done this before. I cut all the way through because I wasn't thinking And I disconnected that strip from the rest of it. So I just lined it back up and taped it on there because I need those tick marks on the side. We're cutting these apart the same way we did the larger ones. It's just that the sizing is a little bit different. When I do a mat for the large rectangles, typically I do 2.5 by 1.5 because the sentiments are 2.25 by 1.25. Actually, on the inside of the other card, I cut that down a little bit anyway. It was 2 3/8 by 1 3/8. But when I make them smaller, this is not a tidy measurement. It's not easy for me to be like, oh, and I will just add lots of 1/8 of inches together and figure out what the mat is. So I use removable adhesive. I stick it in the corner of some cardstock so that I have equal margins on 2 sides. And then I just start trimming away at the other sides until they match. No measuring necessary. I like the removable adhesive so that if I accidentally cut one side too short, I can still pick it up and move it. And then I'll glue it on there for real. I'll use my removable adhesive behind the cardstock layer, the colored cardstock layer, because I do like the option to change that sentiment. This one says, I'm here for the booze. I think there's one that says something about boo sheet too. I had a lot of fun with this. If you look at the strip sentiments, a lot of times you'll get bonus sentiments because there's more room. I'm going to add a large action wobbler to the back of my dog. There is adhesive on both sides of the wobbler, but I don't trust it. I've had these for a very long time, and I made a bunch of cards for my son's teacher a couple years ago, and she mentioned to me that some of the wobblers have been falling off. So I am adding glue. There are 2 sides to the wobbler. There's one that's white and one that's clear. I don't know that there's a right or wrong way to put this together, but I like the clear side closest to the card because that's the side you're more likely to see. And then hopefully you can see more of the pattern paper than you can the actual mechanism of the wobbler. On the inside of my card, I'm adding the second part of this, but you know, happy birthday too, I guess. And I added that to my 2.5 by 1.5 inch mat. That's the full size rectangle. I will add that with my removable adhesive to the short flap where we can hide our gift card. I actually thought I was done with this card. I set it aside. I took photos. I went and picked my kids up from my in-laws. And I'd made a card like this for my father-in-law last spring, and he has it on display and it doesn't stand up very well. So I came back the next day to add this large pumpkin. And actually mine looks like it's standing up right now, but I don't think that would last. So I'm creating a little pocket out of this large pumpkin that will hold that short flap. I'm putting glue only on the far left and the very bottom. You need a really big pocket here. When the card is standing up, it's not going to go all the way inside the pumpkin, but when you fold it closed to put it in an envelope, it goes pretty far in there, right? So that looks great. But again, folded flat, you can see how far that rectangle goes down into that pumpkin. You pull the bottom and you kind of reveal that piece, and then you can flip open the top and you can have a gift card in there, write your little message. My friends, I am absolutely in love with this card. It is so, so cute. So after I finished filming the second time, I decided this was going to be my craft roulette card. I know. I actually need to add one thing for that. So the project is outside, inside, and we have the inside showing on the outside and lots of inside-outside decoration, which I'm very happy with. For the colors, we have tulips, so there are pinks and purples and oranges, and then a lot of neutrals going on. For our element, we have festival. Our festival is Halloween, and then this is the piece I needed to add. Our random element is Czech or Czechs, and my husband was like, have him be from Czechoslovakia. Instead, I added one more sentiment on the white panel. On the inside, it says hashtag seriously old, and the hashtag is a very small checked pattern. All right, my friends, those are our 2 card projects for today. I would love to know which of these 2 interactive cards is your favorite. If you are interested in this free printable kit with all of the sentiments and the digital paper, all I ask is that you subscribe to my channel and then ring that bell so you'll be notified every time there's a new free kit. There are 5 kits in the month of September, and this is only kit number 2. If you have ideas for sentiments coming up, especially as we move into October, we need another holiday kit, so that is coming. But I would love to know what your ideas are for themes to go with some of those new kits. There's also some bonus kit content coming in October. I can't even, my friends. Plus, if you didn't see it earlier this week, I released another video using some of these Halloween birthday sentiments. This I made in a live stream that I'll link below. And then this one, I have a whole video tutorial on, and it's got a magnet element. It sort of pops into place here, or when you close it, and it uses the same sentiments from this kit. If you're looking for circle sentiment inspiration, I highly recommend both of those. Everything is linked below, so click more or show more in the description box below the video. You'll find all of my supplies, links to the videos that we've talked about, and everything else you need for this free kit.